Okay, I think it's playing now. And I just wanted to state a few of my reasons why the DEA should reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3, and that is its medical uses. Now, a lot of people might think that the medical uses uh, are very, um, well, made up because they just want, or if because they want it legalized nationwide, which isn't bad because I believe that drug use is social and recreational, and also that it's medicine. And I think that prohibition was wrong to take away these rights from people and to put pressure and regulation, uh, I think, is um, it's necessary to a certain extent, but not to the extent that it is, because obviously, let me tell you a little bit about the history of cannabis. Cannabis was used as a anticonvulsant before 1937, and it was used, um, and the hypothesis was made that it was an anticonvulsant by a doctor working in India, and it was uh, so it was taken off of taken actually taken away from people um, by prohibition in America. This and so if you fail to even teach that this is true, then you're guilty of a denial of scientific facts. And the a lot of the other drugs that are used to treat like epilepsy, which is what it was used for, they also have mind altering side effects. They also uh, don't you're not sure if they work. You're and it's only with regular, and it works it's supposed to work if you regularly take them, and it might not work. I had my first seizure in the 7th grade, and then I had to go on all these medications, and it was horrible for me. But uh, and and it was and I tried to uh, grow up with that as a hindrance, but the thing is, I think that some of how hard it is to deal with is the fact that taking drugs is discriminated against, and also, and if cannabis is just another federally approved epilepsy drug, then I think that the government has a lot of explaining to do if they took it off of the shelves and away from being able to be sold by pharmaceutical companies in, Indian hemp tinctures, or like they did in 1936, or in the 1920s, or in pills, or in the cannabis edible gummies or chocolates that um, and when I'm taking cannabis regularly, I do my seizures are shorter, and I do feel and I feel like there has been a difference. And my seizures were so violent, I was having one tonic clonic a month, and I was sometimes, and they were long, and I was sometimes having uh, um, uh, uh, periods of amnesia that would happen after the seizures. They happened a couple of times, and it's hard to, tell people, oh, I sometimes have seizures and sometimes I have amnesia. It's like, but but amnesia hasn't happened, since uh, since forever, because these, and I think and I think that I can have a lot of, I can't get full seizure control, but but there's FDA approved drugs that that they say they can't get that they can't that these drugs don't work on everybody, and there are tons of them, and they come out with new ones all the time. So, but so it it shouldn't be unusual to just federally approve cannabis as another one. I think as just another option, and the patient doesn't have to be forced to go along with it, but the federally approved drugs that you go on, the patients complain about the side effects all the time. They're very difficult to deal with. Perhaps cannabis would have hard to deal with side effects as well, but the way they're exaggerating about it, I think it's ridiculous, especially since people seem to like the side effects enough to want to. I think that's a bonus. And if it were extracted and sold at a pharmacy, and I think that it could genuinely help people of all ages with epilepsy. And so I think that the thing is that people with epilepsy, we're just the American Medical Association did they did try to get a medical exemption from the beginning, but I think so. That's why I think that the DEA should lower the schedule, and I think that that it should be legal for recreational use. And I think that if you're, I don't think that they should be able to say that I don't think they should be able to make it illegal for use, just because that will force you to do things, and I think for my problem specifically, this issue with people being on drugs is harmful to me personally, because it's like, first, it's like you have a seizure, and then it's like, what can you do about it? Oh, you can be on drugs. And then it's like, oh, well, being on drugs is illegal too. And then it's like, oh, no. And then and one of the possible drugs is actually completely illegal, and it's like, oh, it's just like, well, that's a lot to handle, especially, but it's not, but I think that the government's saying, well, it will be very difficult to legalize it. I think we need to review some more things. I think more studies need to be done. I think that the government needs to say that they are sorry, that they are wrong, and that they have harmed people. And specifically everybody. And so, and specifically people of color, Asian Americans, like, more so that, the arrests for drugs are more so and punishments and stuff like that. They can go for, so they should, um, but I'm just dealing with this, and that the fact that I think that if my medicine is illegal because it's because of racism, then uh, then I'm on the side of the people who think that marijuana should be medicine, or that cannabis should be medicine. Of course, because I don't think it's illegal for a good reason, and I think that scientifically, the the theory of using the pills to kind of to calm down the neurons, and uh, that that they obviously don't care about that. They care about having a business, putting uh, poorer Americans in jail, and specifically about hurting people, I think. And I was never into that, really. Some people have called me a mean person before, but I've never. But I'm just a lonely person who doesn't, who, and has never really had any real friends. But, and so, maybe you want to, I feel like the government wants to legalize it and say that it's still an activity that we look down upon, but I think that that's not the issue here. We want to say, you know, because we don't want the government saying we have to look down upon these activities, and these people. And I think that's cruel and unusual punishment to say that about people when they're just looking for, um, something that is just being human. But I'm looking for more than that. When I say I want medicine for my epilepsy, I'm looking for an answer. I've been wronged by history if I've had a possible method of seizure control taken away from me unjustly because of racial, especially if it's a racial justice issue, because if, no, and because, and I think that, especially when you accuse people of using drug addiction as a reason, it's ridiculous, because I think that you can't you should, I think that society uses drugs to to people who are prohibitionists. They make drugs into the bad guy. And so and I think that while that 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 drugs become the bad guy a lot for my emotional problems, as a result of that, and it also causes but because of that, and it causes a lot of discrimination, being on drugs and having this illness. And but it's especially hard if this question needs to be answered. If epilepsy is in the center of this issue, I feel like I need to stand up and try to raise my voice, which is hard because I'm an artist, I'm not a performer. Trey Parker is a performer. He's wonderful, but I'm not him. So, uh, I'm pretty though, aren't I? I'm pretty and 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 cute and stuff. And I always thought that that would make people like me more, you know. But it was always, but life is hard, you know. And but it's nice to have studied something like art where you can just always be imaginative and be in your own world and always be an artist no matter what people have to say about it. But this this is just my message um, to the DEA.